I think it's at 10:27 in my watch. So 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
How many have joined? 41. 41 people has already joined.
Do you like to share the slides first before I start? The slides just showing. Do you?
Well, only we are showing the first slides. That's all.
Okay. So I stopped the sharing.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Professor Xu. Ashok
Yeah.
Sethia.
Hi.
How are you?
Nice. Fine. Nice to see you
Thank
here.
Thank you
Oh,
for
you are
the
in the car.
initiative.
You are still in the car.
Yes, I'm about to reach my factory in 2 minutes. I'm in Vietnam right now.
Oh, you are in Vietnam. Okay.
Thank you for the initiative taken by you for this topic.
Well, yes, I think Dr. Mehta and Rydon make a good initiation. I support. I just support.
Yes. We hope to continue this every month or so.
Yes, I think every month should be no problem.
Dr.
Yes,
Rianta
I
wants
think
to sponsor for every lecture.
Yes.
Now, whichever country, the speaker from the whichever country, they must sponsor it. Yeah, simple. If somebody talking with India, we'll sponsor. If somebody talking with China, let China sponsor. Same way the Oh, Dr. Prasad, welcome. Dr.
Good morning to all. Good morning to Professor Xu. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Prasad. Oh, great to
How
see
are
you.
Sir?
Yeah, thank
How are
you.
you?
Okay. Hi.
Yeah, the presidents
Prakash.
come.
Yeah, now, yeah. Presidents.
Good
Wow.
afternoon, Dr. Yang Tong.
Yes. Hi. You are in
Dr.
Vietnam.
We are waiting for you. We are waiting for you to start the program. So now is it 10:30? Should I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please start.
Good morning to all the participants across the globe. Webinar on rice bran oil and its co-products hosted by International Association of Rice Bran Oil. Today is the first lecture to be delivered by none other than Professor Xuebing Xu from China on the subject overview of the contamination in oils and fats. I'm happy that the president of the IRBO, Mr. Prakash Satai, also conveys best regard to Dr. Xuebing Xu and Dr. Riang Tong to begin with this first series of lecture. Over to Dr. Riang Tong for your introduction to Professor Xuebing Xu.
Okay. Good afternoon to all participants. First of all, I would like to say that the International Association of Rice Bran Oil webinars is aimed to share the recent knowledge, technologies, regulations, and market situation, and to benefit all who are connected with the rice bran oil and its co-products across the globe. This webinar could not be happened without the generous help of Dr. B.V. Mehta, the Secretary General of the IARBO, Professor Dr. Xuebing Xu, honorary speakers, and others who are not named here from the IARBO and the Solvent Extraction Association of India. The first series of the webinars is on contaminants in fats and oils, which is truly an important issue for marketing of fats and oil products recently. It's split into 3 lectures, starting with the overview of contaminants in oils and fat, which is going to be presented by Professor Xu soon. Then we move on to mineral oils, occurrence, composition, toxicology, regulation, and mitigation technology, which will be presented on September 18 by Dr. Hai Zhang. Finally, Dr. Yan Wang will deliver a seminar on the topics of mineral oils, analytical progress on September 25th. Please ensure you don't miss any of it. We have an hour for each day presentation. If you have any questions, I suggest for you to type it in a chat box and we will answer after the talk. It is a great opportunity and we are honored to have the well-known high expertise, high experience and knowledgeable speaker for the first lecture today. Professor Dr. Xuebing Xu, a chief scientist of Wilma, China, former president of the IARBO, board member of IARBO, adjunct professors in 3 universities. He graduated his PhD from Technical University of Denmark. He is a former professor in Aarhus University, Denmark. His research expertise is on lipid technology, enzyme technology, food functionalities, and food safety. He is going to share with us today on the overview of contaminants in oil and fats. Please welcome Professor Dr. Xuebing Xu.
Okay, thank you, Professor Raidong. Thank you for the invitation to give this lecture. I think I see so many experts in this participation. Hopefully I can deliver a good lecture for all of us. I think it's just said that we are happy to have this organization in the rice bran oil world. I think we have been just showing the slides that 7th year or 8th year from the beginning of initiation of this organization. I think hopefully we can make it beneficial to all the participants or participation from all the rice bran oil community to join this organization to participate activities we have making. So I'm happy to start the first lecture. Before I go, I think I should share my slides first.
Yes.
Okay. It's just mentioned that if you have questions, I think you can put into the message, so we will answer in the end of the lecture. It's mentioned that I see so many experts already. I think I don't expect me to answer all the questions. I think you are many experts in the audience. I hope that they can also engage. The first lecture concerning of contaminants in oil and fats. Actually, in the food safety issues, oil and fats never been a big issue for food safety. Actually, we have been developing technology in the way of technology development that to remove or to mitigate the contaminants in the process. So therefore, food safety is not the issue. But on the other hand, that we do have potential contaminants all the way from agriculture to processing into the oil and fats. Therefore, for all of us in the oil world should know that how to making sure that contaminants are removed or contained. I think it's said again that I'm not trying to answer all the questions in this issue, that this is a big issue. So many contaminants. Oh, okay. How to move on?
Arrow key.
That's a little strange.
Use the arrow keys. Move the arrow keys, sir.
Progress.
I guess you can see, but I cannot move forward the slides.
Email. Can you send me right now email? I'll just load from my side.
Also, when I shared the slides, that directly into full screen. So this is not the same as the first time we tried. Oh, somebody can mute the. Oh, this is better.
Can you change now? Just
Okay, I think now it's okay. Okay, yeah. Got it. Sorry for that. I put the wrong slides, I think. As you can see in this list, there's a lot of contaminants in previous studies and or controls. So therefore, we just go through it. I think I will going to use quick scanning way that to go through those. The basic resources and the basic structure, the basic risks, all in one or two ways to remove it. Basically, information like that. So therefore, want to go to details. Each issue will be taking a lot of time to go to details. So therefore, in the next and third lecture, we're gonna go to mineral oils. Yeah. As you can see that from contaminants can come from all the supply chain, from agriculture to transportation to storage, even production. In the whole supply chain, the potential contamination can happen. So therefore, that we have to take care the controls. First, let's start with dioxins. Dioxins basically for marine oils. This is from the sea, that contamination of the chemicals into oil, fish oils, for example. This is the structure dioxin. Dioxin used to very complicated, and there's more than hundreds of different structures contain chloride and including PCB. And those compounds usually polluted from all the way from land and from transportation by the ship and stuff like that. And so it is increasing from the last 20 years, the content. Usually that the dioxin control analysis is very complicated. It taking the high cost for analysis. So therefore, this is also issue. Only a few international organizations can provide analysis, standardized analysis. So this is a big issue, but it's not for vegetable oils usually, particularly for land oils. Usually it's only marine oils like fish oil. As you can see, usually dioxin PCB, we can remove it by absorption. This is obvious with benzene rings, and it's more polar and can be absorbed by bleaching earths and carbons, activated carbons, stuff like that. And this is often the practice in industry. So therefore, it's not special. There's a lot of publications. You can even checking at least more than 20 PhD theses already appeared in the issue. So you can check the library for details. Also, we can remove by stripping, and this is one of the study in the PID study, and by stripping you can reduce with different temperature conditions, you can remove to necessary content which you like to have. So therefore, this is potential possible. And then it's said we quickly go through. Then we only have 30 minutes. I have 50 slides actually, so therefore I make it quick. And this is the pH. pH is also very toxic. And you see all those rains, even in light and not having pHs, and the sources often, of course, from the petroleum industry, but of course it can be from other sources if we don't exclude it. Yeah. For example, here we can pollute it from air, soil, water. So the contamination can be from different sources, particularly wood fires and diesel fires, and also before we often we burn the hands in agriculture farming field, and this is often create pH into the soil. So therefore, this is have been protected from the regulation issues. But in high temperature treatment, like roasting, for example, can also happen. So very high temperature treatment is not good. Often giving the contamination of pH. And the same thing, we also can remove it. Actually, this is the theory. I think the theory very complicated. Basically, high temperature polymerization and those issues involve a lot of reaction mechanisms. I think we can skip this in details. And in oil and fats world, it's said that drying, heat treatment, or field contamination, or the drying, even put on the seeds in the root, for example, in the field, drying by sunshine can give contamination. So therefore, this all the way can be contaminated. Of course, production side that is said high temperature treatment can also create contamination. But with deodorization, either use deodorization or active carbon absorption, we can remove it. This is also a common practice in the industry. For example, roasting in China, we have a certain production technology use roasting. For example, peanut oil, sesame oil, and those roasting usually go up to 200 degrees sometimes. Can create polymerizations. This pH can see increase. So therefore, the control of temperature is necessary actually, particularly with modern technology. How to avoid high temperature treatments? This is the issue to develop traditional oil and fats. But of course, we can in the moment that the contamination is under control globally. Actually, have not been an issue, but it can happen. This can happen in. This is a case which is how to remove it using the refining process. From crude oil, by neutralization, bleaching, deodorization, each step can reduce the content of pH. For example, even neutralization, the soup formed can absorb some pH, so that there is a reduction. Bleaching, of course, absorption can happen. Deodorization can also remove part of light pH. So therefore, those steps we have already performing can, in a way, that reduce the pH. In certain countries, even including China, there is some rural pressing way of small-scale treatment production of oil and fats without those refining process. Actually, that's quite risky for a high contamination of pH. So therefore, industrial processing is required for oil and fats globally. This is also some other isomers or different pH in the treatment can be in each step how much can be reduced. As you can see that for light pH or heavy pH in different ways can be reduced to limit it to EU regulation requirement. In our processing steps in oil and fats, traditionally or conventionally, that those conditions in a way can influence or affect quality of the oil and fats, like the taste and color, FFA, tocopherol, also contaminants. Some processes like high temperature can increase contaminants, some can reduce. For example, those conditions are also related with contaminants for me. And then we move to PAEs, those called plasticizers. These plasticizers have been an issue, for example, in a few regions have been political or public issues. And it used not be an issue in food safety, but lately, last 10 years or 15 years, have been a few cases globally that giving problems. So therefore, the control of plasticizers in oil and fats have been an issue, and I think nowadays that those safe or food grade plasticizers have been widely developed, and these issues have been much better situation. But plastic materials in oil and fats, particularly in bottles and in transportation contamination, if it's not for oil and fats contact, can also create a problem. For example, plastic bottles for water, and usually in high temperatures can have contamination of plasticizers. So this is have to be professional material for use in containers. And this is different plasticizers used in industry. Actually, even more. I think there's another 20 or 30 types of plasticizers in practical uses before. It's mentioned that those different, particularly not very safe, or chemical synthesized plasticizers are reducing in industry. Actually, particularly for those companies for plastic production, and they are trying to develop new plasticizers, particularly from the material of oil and fats, for example, for the use in food safety issues. And those issues have been critical issues for is mentioned. So therefore, it is an issue. It is an issue. Still is an issue, particularly when you use wrong plastic materials for oil and fats containers. That can be an issue, particularly when in high temperature, for example, treatment. You put the bottles in and sunshine. This always can create plasticizer migration to oil and fats. This is EU regulation. I think you can check more details or update it. This is 2011. You can check more updated regulations in EU homepage. This is the control. This is in publication use deodorization. We can remove part of it plasticizers And you can see that during with different deodorization temperature, certain amount can be reduced.
दीपक इसमें
However-
पहले ये लगाने का था, अब ये नहीं है इसमें। नहीं है ही नहीं है।
Please,
mute your phone. Please mute your phone.
मतलब आप नहीं सुन सकते हैं ऐसे, है ना?
बाद में उसको ओपन कर दीजिए।
So with different temperatures, then the
No, is unmute. Mute yourself, Mr. Unmute yourself, doctor. Unmute yourself. एक दस सेकंड। You can't do?
I can ask him.
एक मिनट पूरा कर दे, खोल दे एक से। Unmute everybody. Unmute.
I'm asking you to unmute.
No,
You
no.
say verbally say, आप verbally बोल दीजिए.
Doctor, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. नहीं आप अनम्यूट सारा को कर देंगे ना, सारा कर दो।
Option से आप mute all का ही है.
हाँ।
Professor, we are not listening you. You are
No, that's one sec, doctor.
so somebody mute my phone.
Yeah, yes.
Can
Now,
you hear
go
me?
ahead. Now we can listen you, doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I go back.
Yeah, little bit.
You. So somebody control my slides also.
Slides, you are not able to move.
Yeah, cannot move on.
No, I think with the arrow you can move it, doctor.
Yeah.
Can you?
Stop the sharing and restart again.
Reset. Now restart your slides.
Yes.
Put your slides back.
Okay. So
Full screen. Full screen.
don't control the slides. Don't.
Full screen. Yeah.
नहीं कर पाएंगे,
Yeah.
ये नहीं कर पाऊंगा.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So France, probably you didn't hear from here, right? So plasticizers often an issue that contamination. I think this is the EU regulation. Of course, you can check the updated regulations in the homepage of EU. And then with deodorization control, we can remove part of the plasticizers. This is mentioned that depend on different plasticizers. And from the figures, you can see actually with different temperature, you can remove 78 or 70% of the plasticizer contamination. But it's actually very hard for certain plasticizers can be removed totally. So that's one of the issue that some contamination once happened and very hard to be removed. And then let's move to toxins. Toxins are also very common, particularly if the seeds are not properly controlled when in the harvesting step. So therefore, those fungi happened to create toxins. And let's see, this is actually very common. Of course, this depends on the area. If it's, for example, in certain area with very humid weather, and those when during the harvesting, it often produce toxins, and sometimes it can be very heavy. And in certain regions with cold region, and those fungi are rarely happened, or much less. So therefore, this is, can be from sorting the resources or source of our seeds can release the issue of contamination. But of course, this depends the contamination as well. For example, this is for the corn oil. Usually, it's this zinc, so-called zinc contamination, and the processing in the field usually very often contaminated, and it is happening very commonly. And another contamination could be that corns are usually used for starch production with wet processing, use water and stuff like that. And then the germs, which is coming afterwards, usually should stored with high humidity, moisture. And in that situation, the fungi often happens. So therefore, when use those materials for oil and fat production, it creates toxin contamination. And this is the same issue that in the whole supply chain can happen contamination. And this is more details for the safety issues, and including metabolites and stuff like that. And those can check with more detailed information from literature. And this is a EU regulation which is controlled, for example, particularly for refined maize oil with 400 microliter, 400 content compared to some controlled 100, some even low, but in maize oil we use 400. And this is the structure which is for the compounds, and I think we don't go too detailed for this. And particularly concern is that how to remove it. Actually, as you can see, particularly the step use neutralization. Neutralization can remove to required content, and not so difficult with regular neutralization or deep neutralization or optimal neutralization, with different way of neutralization, which is the soap form that can absorb or remove the toxins away. So that's pretty easy to operate. And another one is aflatoxin. Aflatoxin usually also happen in corn, but also but the majority is in peanut. Peanut is a very often from agriculture to storage, also transportation stage, and it is giving up big issues for particularly with B1 structure that give liver cancer, and it's very toxic here. And there's many ways. Lately, there's many ways to remove it. You can check applications and use physical way that by absorption, including water washing, you can remove part of it. Like in this figure, for example, can reduce the content. And also chemical way, for example, UV radiation, ozone treatment, for example, to destroy the structure of B1, B2, including G1, G2, and of course, change into isomers. And we know nowadays that the B1 is the most toxic compounds, and the isomers toxicity have been reduced. But still, the isomers after radiation, after treatment, can still keeping some toxicity. Lately, there is a very good way to use by treatment. For example, those compounds synthesized by enzyme or through enzyme. So therefore, there must be enzyme can degrade it. And this have been well developed all through fermentation. We often treat the meals for fermentation, change into fermented peanut or peanut meal or soybean meal for feed stuff, which is improved quality. And during this process, we can introduce particularly micro strains of microorganism to degrade the toxins. So this is in development. In China, we have seen some pilot studies. Actually, it is quite effective compared to physical, chemical, biological way, which can also improve the quality or digestion, for example, of the proteins. So therefore, can do this in together. So this is on the way. This is on the way. But for oil and fats, usually once contaminated, we can only use absorption. So this is often use bleaching, earth and stuff, use certain carbons to remove it. So this is a common practice. Then contaminants from heat treatment, and this is a lot, and this is only a few I put here. And of course, the first is trans fat. Trans fat have been issue particularly for hydrogenated oil and fats. So therefore, may issue for hydrogenation. But high temperature also produce all trans fats. So trans fats in certain cases, including rice bran oil, because rice bran oil have high content of FFA, which is usually use high temperature or long time for deodorization, and this often creates trans fats. So therefore, this is a issue we can develop the technology. MCPD and GE have been lately for last 15 years and big issue, and this is main reason, even though of course precursor from diglycerides and monoglycerides, but it is due to temperature. Very recently, I think last 5 years, these aldehydes in fried foods have been issued in Europe, and it is giving big safety issues. Let's give more details. Trans fat, I think this is very clear. Trans fats have been WHO lately trying to push so-called low trans fat content. So this is quite commonly accepted. Is a contaminants to be controlled. So therefore, it's not a new issue, and particularly from USA in 2018 have been get out hydrogenated fats to food. So this is have been a big impact on global regulation. As you can see that, again, temperature, if we take out hydrogenation, then deodorization is the issue, increased trans fat. As you can see from this figure that with different deodorization temperature, with the time, that's linear increase of trans fat content. So sometimes here, 5-4 is the maximum, but in certain operation, if you use extreme treatment, you can go up to 10%. So I see from commercial oil and fat have 10% of content. So therefore, this should be carefully controlled actually, and particularly with longer deodorization time, that the increase of trans fat can happen. In China, there's a push for so-called mild deodorization, and with certain developments, particularly including instruments, a deodorizer, for example, to make it more efficient. and vacuum more effective. And then you can reduce temperature to 200 to 220, and still can making a good deodorization in terms of smell, in terms of FFA content stuff. So this is have been on the way. So-called moderate refining or moderate processing is on the way. In that case, you can control trans fat less than 0.3. So this is could be a technology for refining updation. MCPD, this is the compounds. This is the compound I put here. So-called since we have glycerol and during the process treatment, we do have chlorine. So therefore, once these two put together and the high temperature, and the MCPD can happen, particularly MCPD esters, fatty acids, two fatty esters or one fatty esters. And this glycerol, which is also quite common, happen. And this has happened for 15 years back, and story 2006. And first publication or first explosion in a conference in Europe, which is showing that besides soy sauce, usually this compound exists in soy sauce because soy sauce with chlorine and high temperature treatment can produce. So therefore, we never know it happens in oil and fats since 2006, and it found that in oil and fats happening. And so therefore, there's a lot of public awareness going on afterwards, including development of methodology for analysis. At the moment that the EU pull to the regulations and then to 2 ppm or 3 ppm, I forget, but you can check. EU already have regulations, and before that, actually, industry, particularly food oil fats for infant formula, for example, have been controlled to 200 ppb, for example. So this is have been very toxic, can create cancers and stuff like that. So therefore, there's a lot of studies on that. We don't go to details. And this is from analysis to toxic evaluation, and then to mitigation technology, how to control it. So therefore, these have been developed for last 10 years. We do have a method to control the content. And it is mentioned that the reason that to happen for in oil and fats is that because monoglyceride, diglycerides, and together with chlorine, this particularly the organic chlorine, usually used for pesticides and stuff like that, contain chlorine, and can in high temperatures can produce MCPD. So this is detailed mechanism have been reported in literature. As you can see that with temperature increase and MCPD increase, this is obvious, particularly when after 240, then the increase is very significant. So therefore, temperature for deodorization is a central issue. And for technology to remove it, including all the way for the processing, actually not only reduce the temperature of deodorization, but also including chemical refining steps can remove from degumming, neutralization, bleaching. So this together with the control of deodorization, then we can control the content of MCPD and CE. And this issue, I only have 2 slides. It's very sensitive because frying foods is very common globally. I think in Asia that the fried foods is consumed that taking 50% of consumption. So therefore, it is actually a very sensitive issue. Before that, we know that frying and high temperature, usually 150 to 180 degrees, and polymerization, isomerization happens. And after 5 or 10 years study, that those polymerized or polarized or isomerized, even though happens, it is not giving the clinical studies a big harm. From many studies, those polymers not big issue, even though from WHO control the reduce the eating of having fried food, but it's actually it's not a big exposure of risks for polymers actually. On the other hand, last 5 years, we found that these small chemicals formed from oxidation, particularly aldehydes. And this here lists 4 compounds, which were usually in volatiles during frying, but also can keep in fried food. So that's giving big issues. Those big issues, given the issues of stroke and you see this different influence of health and stuff like that, and including cancers and stuff can happen. So therefore, because these small compounds can penetrate in the body to all the organs, and particularly can influence. We know that nowadays also the DNA, for example, the genes. So therefore, this giving bigger concern, even though the study is still going on, but the exposure of and the safety have been widely studied with 100 documented by 150 papers actually in the last 5 years, and these issues it is very sensitive, because if it is an issue that the only solution, then we can, you see, is mentioned that the fried food is so common and so welcome, and in certain cases, even it prevents safety issues. For example, in high temperature regions, and this frying can kill the fungi and stuff like that. So therefore, those basically can increase safety, food safety. But if this is the issue that we cannot get rid of the fried food, but we can control the oils, and less unsaturation usually have less oxidation. So therefore, use saturated oils and high oleic oils instead of soybean, those more polyunsaturated fats. And this is the critical themes. Also, we can control the frying systems. For example, use vacuum frying, and once formed, then through vacuum can remove away or collect it. And this could be also, but it's the frying cost will be increased. Also, frying management control, for example, the time of frying and change the oil more frequently. And of course, this again, that concerning the cost of frying food. So therefore, this is essentially if it's still going on, but it looks already have enough data to showing it's a safety issue. And concerning the mineral oil, I think we're gonna have 2 lectures afterwards. So therefore, I skip it. I only put 1 slide, just showing the exposure that it's existing because of agriculture, you know, just lubricants and other contaminations happens in production steps and stuff like that. So therefore, this is a issue lately for control. Including analysis, not even including analysis methods still in development, and the risk evaluations, and including how to reduce it and stuff like that. I think it's an issue that for whole supply chain control management, eventually, because remove it is not easy. But anyway, Dr. Zhang Hai and Wang Yan will give more details concerning the information in details. And then I think I use later too much time. I think this gonna give quick overview of safety issues. Is not just processing. Actually, it's whole supply chain. So therefore, if we want to control the issue, and it's not must be from the agriculture, from transportation, from whole supply chain to control it. And in this way, actually, we can making the costs, making the material easy to operate. So therefore, this is a central issue. And for the processing part, actually, we have two issues. It's just mentioned that we need to make a balance. Then one side is the contaminants should be removed. Another way is that those nutritional elements like tocopherol, phytosterol. So therefore, how to create a process that can balance those issues, can keep the nutritional components, but remove the toxic components. And this is the best way. Of course, we do have possibility. It's just mentioned, for example, we can reduce temperature, we reduce trans fat, we reduce those high temperature leading contaminations, and we also can remove those pH and stuff like that. And particularly, we can keep vitamin E's, for example, those nutritional components. So this is a quite demand for updated technology and use biotechnology, use high effective process, and those issues is on the way. I think that we do have possibilities to create a balance that both can be reached. So this is possible, and also a need for scientists, engineers to develop. I think quickly summary that contaminants, existing along with us. So therefore, we cannot kick out directly. And then we have to understand what happened. And if happened in agriculture part, and whether we can use a simple way to operate in agriculture part instead of processing part. So therefore, new technologies should be, the balance, the whole supply chain should be keeping in alert. And new technologies are also helpful in the processing part. And we do need, even though I just in the beginning, I mentioned that all the facts, safety is not big issue compared in food safety in general, but safety is no end actually, and we have seen limitations and more stricter in the past of food development, and this should be an issue for care. So therefore, no end for the technologists or scientists to develop new technology. I think I acknowledge my colleagues to support, particularly Dr. Zhang Hai, to provide quite a bit of slides, and based on his slides, and my colleagues who develop in the way of in those areas in a device. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah. Dr. Yang.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, that's a very interesting and informative presentation, Professor Xu. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Professor Xu? Or shall we open the chat box?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
That you can open.
Where is
Stop the
it?
setting.
Oh,
I think you can, if you have like to have slides, you can ask Professor Wrighton. I give it to her. How to reduce dioxin in oils? There is one question. There is one question.
I cannot read from here. Oh,
There is one question concerning dioxin.
Doctor, can you withdraw your presentation so that you can see the question? Just
How to reduce the dioxin in oils? There's one question I saw.
no. Please
Yeah, in the message.
stop your presentation so that we can see the questions. Stop the sharing of the presentation. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Metal, how to do this? Should I directly answer the questions?
Yeah.
Let's. I see the question: how to reduce the dioxin in oils. This is from R9 participant. Dioxin is usually in marine oils, like fish oils. So therefore, it's not commonly existing in vegetable oils. But anyway, can do it in refining. Also can use absorption. Depends the contamination compounds. You should check, make analysis of detailed composition of dioxins in your contamination, and then you use refining steps with selection of different absorbents and stuff like that. Also with temperatures in deodorization, you can see the reduction. This is common happening in industry right now, and no more effective way, but refining can do it, can control to the regulation required content. Another question is monoglyceride in refining. Well, that's more advanced actually. If I'm not clear for this, I give some comments for that. Monoglyceride is usually emulsifier. Emulsifier currently, emulsifier is not commonly required for food uses. So for normal food requirement, which is doing refining, and usually we don't do common refining for monoglycerides. But for diglycerides have been developed as a nutritional oil, particularly from cow in Japan, studied. And it's mentioned that since diglyceride is a precursor for MCPD formation, so therefore have been issued that to remove from shelf for the products in market. However, this technology have been developed to control the MCPD. So therefore, nowadays, you can use particular way to control particularly lower down temperature and control chlorine, for example, and use if formed that use absorption and neutralization, chemical refining, you can remove those MCPD formed. So therefore, I have no detail because we don't produce diglycerides. But anyway, this is from literature. You can check some updated publications for diglycerides. Monoglycerides, I don't see there is a refining industry, but usually have not commonly or in fact refining. You can check some possibilities to control. I think if without deodorization, monoglyceride wouldn't form high content of MCPD, in my opinion. So therefore, you can make a check of monoglyceride products if MCPD content is high. Usually, we don't consider this in the industry at the moment. This is two questions in the message. I can see
There
if there's
is
more.
there is one more. Which one is most toxin in aflatoxin? I think you already answered
Which
that.
one is most
Yeah.
toxic in
Yeah.
in marine oil? Yes, this is a good question. Actually, I put it in the page that a few ones which is more typical in marine contamination. There is no information which different part of ocean have different contamination. There's no information for the moment, but this is the information mostly from European region, which is the compounds put it on the slides. So therefore, you can check. You need to make an analysis if you concerned about in Asia, for example, make analysis to see if it's different, because this can, even though the oceans connect each other, then taking time to be spread to whole world. So therefore, there might be some difference depending on the contamination, particularly the chemical industry in different countries, regions. I believe that the difference will be very small, but you need to check the details. The most commonly contaminated is in the slides. Later on, you can get the slides.
Next question. How can we reduce the pyrene content in oil?
Chlorine.
Pyrene. P-Y-R-E-N-E, pyrene.
Let me see.
How can we reduce the pyrene content in oil? Pyrene, P-Y-R-E-N-E, pyrene, pyrene.
Okay, I didn't get it. Which question?
From Mr.
Pyrene.
Yeah.
Oil. I got it. I think majority method is by absorption. Purine with many benzene rings, so therefore can be absorbed. So with active carbons and bleaching earth, you need to try different bleaching earth or active carbons. There's sometimes they have difference in terms of performance, but absorption can do the work.
Okay, thank you. Next one, what is the relevance of peroxide value and anisodine values?
Yeah, this is a very basic question. This anisodine value is a secondary product. PV value is the first form the compounds. So therefore, refining cannot remove, can reduce PV value, but cannot reduce anisodine value. So once the oil is damaged and can never come back. So therefore, material is important. Anisodine value reflects the secondary compounds, but the PV value reflects the first oxide compounds. These compounds can be destroyed or removed during refining, deodorization, but the anisodine value, the compound related, cannot be removed. So therefore, were kept. So therefore, you have to check anisodine value together with PV value for the quality.
Okay, thank you. How to address aflatoxin impact in rice bran meal?
This is I can see many. I think Dr. Wrighton, probably you can address this. Rice bran oil we have discussed every year. I think it is a nutritional oil. We present it in every year in the conference, and the reason is that not only because the fatty acids profile of the oil, but also those minor components like oryzanol, phytosterol, vitamin E, even in squalene, for example, and those can be high in 2% of those compounds. Actually, 1 to 2% is commonly existing, and it's very special, which is have so high content. So therefore, rice bran oil, in a way, can be not only food but also can be a medicine in certain cases. So therefore, it is because of this have been a lot of functional effects. For example, currently CVD have a big influence of CVD performance and reduction of coronary disease, for example, and also can improve the brain function in a way that in terms of sleeping, for example, once you are very tired and stuff with oryzanol, it can release the tension of your brain, stuff like that. These have been through clinical studies have been confirmed, and more functions are on the way. Actually, there's quite recent studies concerning prevention of even diabetes, for example. So therefore, those nutritional performance is still on the way to be discovered. We believe it's nutritional.
Okay, I think since the time is limit, so I will ask another 2 questions. How to reduce trans fat in rice bran oil by physical refining method to maintain gamma original content, can't use chemical refining?
Yes, this is a good question actually. This is the on the way work globally, and if in generally that the reason I mentioned that rice bran oil contain high content of FFA usually, I think India have a better crude oil quality actually through the boiling of the rice bran operation. So therefore, that even though that generally that high content of FFA were taking more effort of the authorization, including temperature and time. So therefore, this will be the reason that trans fat can be higher. On the other hand, we can check from commercial products that trans fat content are very different from let's say 10%. I see some 10%, even 3%, 2%, and there's a few cases also less than 1%. So therefore, that means that technology can be applied to reduce the content. So therefore, it's not impossible to control the trans fat content. So I believe that we need to develop technology or get more effective process to control trans fat. So it's possible. It's possible. I believe so.
Okay, I think the last question: what should be done in packaging to avoid POSH or PAOH? Is there any innovation in packaging to avoid these contaminants? This is mean PAEs, phthalate ester. How to remove it?
I think if you see those premier products in Europe, you see it's packaged by glass. By glass, and it's usually treated as premier with glass packaging, and that means that plastics, even though we can take care, and usually in order to making plastic possibilities, there's always have plasticizer inside. and this still means that there's a possibility of contamination. So therefore, we do have possibilities eventually control the contamination. I think, but best way use glass or metal container. But of course, this again adding to the cost. So therefore, we on the other way that we should check the bottles in terms of price size type and content and the use, which condition can limit the transmission from bottles to oil. So therefore, this should be making more specifications in the label and let the consumers to take care of the bottles in a better way. I see some people that just exposed to high temperature that may increase the contamination of plasticizers. Also, bottles for water packaging is not possible. It's not allowed to use for oil its containers. So there's two different materials. This should be clear.
Hey, there are a few more questions. So since we're running out of time, so what should we do? Are you going, can you type the answer in the chat box later on, or what should we do from here?
Let me see.
Another 3 more questions.
Okay, Dr. Mehta, can we extend a little time?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Let's make it quick. Let's make it quick instead of, I think there are.
What is the storage time of after production of rice bran oil? And if storage time increase, what are the derivation occurs?
Okay, I should stop. Dr. Prasad asked me to stop the sharing.
Yes.
Okay. What other questions? Can you repeat?
What is the storage time of after production of rice bran oil? And if storage time increase, what are the deviations occurs?
Okay. Actually, this question I may not be able to answer. I think depend on the conditions. I believe that better protection in generally the theory is that keep the quality. If you can check the quality during the storage, then you can find out how long you can put on the shelf life. So this is a very common practice for plants control. And we usually check shelf life, even in a practical way. In China, actually, even though I prefer shorter, but we have shelf life for 18 months, 1.5 years in China. In Europe, that could be different shelf life. I don't know if in other part of the Asia or have different. So therefore, depends. I think check your quality in the conditions, because these conditions can be different. Room conditions can be temperature can be higher. So therefore, the shelf life might be different. So I wouldn't give possible to give details in your situation. Rather, you can check how long keep the regulation required standards specifications to see how long you can keep it.
Okay, move on. What are the adulteration possible in crude oils? Adulteration in crude oils.
In crude oil?
Yes.
Um, Okay. If I catch the point that is that to protect the blending of other oils, is that me what you mean? Adoration. So protect for the blending of other oils. Is that what you mean?
I'm really not sure. So, can we move on another questions? I have to go to see the doctor 1:30 in the city. So, what should we do?
Dr. Rangton, we can do one thing. We can send an email to all the participants with the email ID of Dr. Xuebing Xu so that they have any
Okay.
questions, they can answer directly my email. Is that okay?
Okay, please. Thank you very much. Sorry, Professor Xu. I have to leave
Yeah.
to take my daughter to the hospital. Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. I
Sorry
think
about
then we can
that.
stop here. We can
And
stop
thank
here.
you very much for your excellent talk. And I hope to see you next Monday for the next
On 18th.
presentation. Yep.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
Okay,
right.
my colleague will give the
Yes.
talk next Monday.
Yes.
I might be on the way.
Oh,
traveling.
okay.
On the way, I'm traveling. I will try to catch.
Yes.
Try to catch.
I
Yeah.
also have lecture, but I probably come, a little bit late. All right.
Okay.
Thank
No
you,
worries.
and
Yeah.
probably see you next Monday. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you, Dr. Xuebing Xu,
Thank you
Dr.
very much.
Xu.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank you all the
Yes,
participants
thank you
to
very
be a
much.
part of it. Thank you very much.
Very much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah.